Hey friends, in today's video I'll tell you about 9 easy and high impact life hacks you can use to make the most of your life in Denmark. Let's go. 1. Use the 2-year buyer's guarantee. In Denmark, in case you go and buy something, a physical item, say a pair of shoes or a TV for example, if this item breaks or wears off too much within the first 2 years of your purchase, you have the right to have it replaced by a completely new item again within this period. The only thing you need to do is that you need to just have the receipt and of course the item that has been worn off. This is more powerful than it sounds. So for example, in my case, in her family we had a soda stream machine, the one that you use to make bubbly water, and we have been using it a lot every single day. And when it was like almost 1 year and 10 months, it broke and stopped working. And I literally just took the machine with a receipt of my original purchase to Power, which is this shop you use to buy like electronics and so on here. Told them, hey, it broke and I need to have it replaced. And no questions asked. I just gave them the material, they gave me a new one. And almost after 2 years, I got my first soda stream. They gave me a completely new one. It's like absolutely crazy. And I did the same with this, for example, with a pair of Nike shoes that the sole had worn out too much after just 1 year and a half. And yeah, again, get completely new items. This also applies for home appliances and also for clothes. So for example, if you have a sweater and like it starts breaking on the side, or you get a pair of pants and they also break and go beyond the normal wear and tear, you can get them replaced again. I can tell you that this is a very good deal. This is something that you can make a good impact in your finances, and also makes it in a way justifiable why prices in Denmark are so high. At the end of the day, a lot of the companies need to consider that there are going to be people like this that will gonna have the items replaced. So that's why perhaps we have a little bit of a markup versus other similar countries in Europe when it comes to consumer prices. And also, you could say even that's one of the reasons why some companies just blatantly refuse to sell physical products in Denmark. Just one disclaimer here, this doesn't apply when you just mishandle your items. So we have a robot vacuum at home in my case, and my son likes to jump on the robot vacuum sometimes, and I just can't justify going to Power and say, hey, the robot vacuum broke. And then it will be, of course, if my son goes and jumps on it, it's not normal wear and tear. That's basically destroying your items. And same if you smash your iPhone and so on. So just keep in mind that this is only for when things that, for example, the soda stream, I just have been using it, I have not been throwing it around, I have not been jumping on it or anything, they just stopped working. And when, again, like the guarantee was like for 2 years. 2. Go winter bathing. So here in Denmark, it's cold and dark for a lot of time. So we have November, December, January, February, which is pretty cold, and at the same time, it's also dark. Instead of just trying to fight against and try to power through the winter, why don't you embrace it, right? And one of the ways to embrace winter and make the most of your experience in Denmark is to go winter bathing. Winter bathing is just what it sounds. So winter bathing is when you go and swim in the ice cold water in the canal in Copenhagen, for instance, or any of the beaches that we have around Denmark. So what you do is that you go literally like with your swim shorts, you just jump into the water and enjoy it. Sometimes you can be a minute, sometimes you can be 30 seconds, sometimes you can be like 5 seconds like me sometimes. And then once you need to heat up, you just hop into the many saunas that are like close to these winter bathing spots, you could say. There are clubs that do this all around the city. So we have clubs in Islandsbrugge, for example. This is the one I'm part of, and there are also clubs in Nordhavn and so on. And these are clubs where you have a sauna and at the same time access to the water. But nothing stops you from just jumping any place you want. I have friends that have been like just jumping and don't need even to go to the sauna after. You just enjoy the cold weather. Research shows that winter swimming can strengthen your immune system and speed up your blood circulation, among other key benefits. The icy dip also releases adrenaline, serotonin, dopamine, which means that you can have a feeling of warm and fuzzy. If you are having second thoughts on whether going winter swimming or not, just take this. I'm a South American guy, and for my first like 7 or 8 years in Denmark, I never even touched the water in summer. So it's like it was a big leap of faith to go and jump in winter, but it's completely worth it. It's something that is worth trying. And again, if it's not your cup of tea, don't do it anymore, but it's something worth trying. 3. Take vitamin D in winter. So Denmark, as I said, it's cold, but it's also especially dark. So the period from October till February, you could say, that's a period where it might not be sometimes as cold as in other places, but it's just so dark and so cloudy. I remember my first December in Denmark, I saw the sun just once in the whole month, just one day. And even the day was not, it was sunny for too long, it was just a few hours. And it's not good not to get sunshine. So one of the quick solutions you have is just to take holidays and go somewhere sunny. But if you stay in Denmark, you need to get some vitamin D. Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not playing a doctor on the internet. So before you go winter bathing and before you go to get vitamin D, just make sure you check with your GP. But what you need to know is that a lot of people here in Denmark take vitamin D as a supplement in winter, because vitamin D is something that you can only get, your body can only generate through sunshine. And as we don't really have a lot of sunshine here in winter, the best way to do it is just to get the supplements directly. Also, if you are adventurous, what you can can do is add more fish on top of that. So if you don't eat fish, this is a good time to start. So I didn't eat so much fish before I came to Denmark, but then I realized that if I eat sardines straight from the can sometimes and for breakfast, that's something that gives me a boost of energy, makes me feel in a better mood, especially in winter, because again, sardines, one of those superfoods that has a lot of B12, has a lot of omega-3 fatty acids, all these things that actually you need again in these dark, cold winter periods. And again, it's not something you need to try yourself as well, but just be aware of that. If you get this vitamin D, if you get extra fish on top of, for example, sardines as I did, you will give yourself a bit more boost to power you through again for these dark winter months, which otherwise, even like you just might feel a bit sad or depressed without any specific reason. That's because of the darkness. And the way you deal with this darkness is, again, get these extra vitamins, meet with your friends as well, go with the breathing perhaps as well. So this all as a package will help you go through the winter. 4, remember Danish people are accessible. So Denmark is not a hierarchical society at all. It's a very flat society. What this means in practice is that you can reach out to people and people will likely go back to you. So you are actually a lot more likely to make connections here with people that are, let's say, up a level from you at work or beyond than in almost any other place outside Scandinavia. In practice, the way this worked for myself is that when I was looking for a job many years ago, I wanted to work in procurement and do more negotiations and so on. I reached out to a lot of different people working in different companies. And one example was in Carlsberg. I reached out to this guy and basically had a coffee meeting with him where I asked him about his career. I asked him how working in Denmark, about his career in the last few years in different places have been working and like his skill set and so on. And I built a connection with him, and fast forward a few months, he had an opening in his team and he reached out and said, hey, like, would you be interested in this position? And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. And this was without me asking anything from him at all. I never asked him for a job before that. And I never like tried to push myself into anything. I just went and have this coffee meeting with him, asked him how could I help him and keep the connection, talked a few months. And then fast forward into the future, this helped me kickstart my career. This can work in other places. You can make this type of coffee meeting connections in other places, but I think in Denmark, it's just a lot easier to put it off and at the same time get real substantial benefits out of it. So with the same approach, I had some of my good friends, I also basically kickstarted their careers because of 1 or 2 meetings like this. Just note, even though Danish people are again more accessible and more, let's say, you could even say friendly and are more willing to hear you, at the same time, don't be a BS artist. When I was meeting these people, and I met quite a few of them, as I said, I've always been ultra well prepared, asking them good questions. I was genuinely interested in what they had to say, and I never ever asked them for a job. I never asked them for a favor. I was just trying to be this young guy who tries to learn from them. And again, when they said they need some help on this and that, I would just go out of my way to help them and then build genuine connections. In the end of the day, again, this is about showing value. And if you show value to enough people, good things will happen. And in my case, that meant that job in Carlsberg happened. If you want to hear more about the Danish job market and specifically how I went from being a broke graduate student and a failed startup entrepreneur to working now in some of the biggest companies such as Maersk and Carlsberg and also into senior roles in these companies, make sure you subscribe below because I'll be making videos about that into the future and I will be explaining more of this approach on how you can also succeed as an expat in this job market. 5. Use Revolut when you travel. As you know, in Denmark we have Danish krona, and when you use your Dankort, so your Danish bank account card, in any and buy anything in any currency that's not Danish krona, you will pay a hidden fee that's basically like you have to pay this fee, but it's not explicitly set anywhere. So it's not that something that the bank will be telling you, hey, you're paying this fee. No, it's something that is kind of hidden and some people might not even know about. And these fees at the end of the day can mean a lot of money. But specifically, what are they? So in Denmark, if you buy something with your Dankort in euros, so you buy it online or you buy it when you go traveling and so on, you will pay a 1.5% fee on top of the purchase price. And if you buy in any other currency on top of euros, so like you have dollars or whatever, you'll pay at 2% and not 1.5%. It's 2% on top of that as well. So in practice, what it means is that if you buy an iPhone in the US for $1,000, in effect, what you'll see in your bank statement without the bank telling you beforehand is that you'll see the equivalent cost of $1,020. 1.5% and 2% might not sound too much, but if you like extrapolate over multiple years and a lot of purchases and trips and so on, this can mean a lot of money. What you do to stop paying these ridiculous fees is to use something called Revolut, and there's going to be a link down in the video description. But Revolut, what it is in practice, is an online bank where you get a prepaid debit card that you can top up from your Dankort or from Apple Pay or whatever without having to pay any fees to put your money in there. And once you use money with this card, you basically skip these fees. So if you're, for example, going to buy the iPhone in the US, you pay with Revolut, the actual cost will be $1,000 and it will not be $1,020. This, again, if you do a lot of traveling and so on, can add up. In my case, as I mentioned, I have been to over 130 countries. Believe me, Revolut has saved me thousands of dollars. 6. Find a rent-controlled apartment. Rental in Denmark, it's super expensive, and this is one of the main reasons why I keep suggesting to expats that you should consider looking into buying a house. And there's a lot of videos linked over here that will basically explain the whole process of buying a house here. With that said, there's an exception, and that is rent-controlled apartments. Rent-controlled apartments, in practice, what it means is that you could be living in the center of Copenhagen for a 100 square meter flat or so and pay around 10 or 11,000 krona per month in rent, which is, I don't need to tell you, a very, very good deal. The reason this happens is that if there is an apartment that has been built before 1992, there's a set maximum limit that rent should be set to. And if the person living in that apartment, and there's some catches and so on, if the person really living in that apartment is paying more than that, that tenant can go to something called the rental board and sue the landlord and get the rent lowered, and the difference between the should be rent and what they are paying returned to them. I have made a whole video over here that explains this process in detail, but in practice what it means to you is that you can, if you can find one of these deals, and again they're very, very hard to find, especially for expats, you will end up living, again, as I said, in a very good situation. 7. Use vinegar to remove chalk. The water in Denmark is very hard. Specifically, it means it's full of chalk, and in practice it means that your kitchen sink will have this layer of whiteness, your shower as well, the sink in your bathroom, and even your toilet. So that everything in Denmark that is in contact with water will end up having these layers of chalk. There are multiple products that help you remove this chalk, but if you want a quick, easy win and life hack, that is to use vinegar instead. So a concrete example, if you see that your shower head is now having white dots or it's not flowing as powerfully as you might want, you can remove that shower head, put it in vinegar. So just buy any vinegar from the shop, put the shower head in vinegar, let it stand for some time, a few hours for example, clean it up, and then put it back, and you'll see it will work almost as new. You can do the same, for example, with the tap in the kitchen or in the bathroom. And again, there are specific things that will maybe do this process even better, but vinegar is just a quick one. Just one more note on chalk is that it might be dripping or embedded in things that you might not expect. So when we moved to my current apartment, the toilet was not flushing as powerfully as one might want, and it turned out when we called the plumber to see what's going on, that the full toilet itself, so the pipes inside and like this where the water collects in the toilet, was full of chalk as well. And the guy had to come with a machine and so on, remove all the chalk, and all of a sudden, without us seeing any substantial thing from the outside, the toilet was flushing about 3 or 4 times harder, which was nice. So just to know that, again, this is a real problem in Denmark, but luckily, as everyone is in the same boat, there are a lot of easily available solutions. 8. Get grants for studies or projects. Denmark has a lot of institutional money going around. There's a lot of foundations and groups that have a lot of capital, and they give that capital to either student organizations or student projects or entrepreneurship or climate initiatives, you name it. So if you have a good pitch, if you have a nice project that you have person or as a group, something that you think you could strive to get in some kind of funding, Denmark is one of the best places to do this. Specifically because Denmark is a place where there's a lot of, as I say, a lot of this institutional funding, and there's not enough competition for it. So Denmark is a place where if you know how to hustle and if you know how to push the right buttons for this funding and make a good pitch, you can get it. It's a lot more competitive in a lot of other countries. Here in Denmark, again, it's a lot more easily accessible. And even if you don't need funding directly from these foundations, you can get it indirectly. So for example, when I was a failed entrepreneur in 2013 and 14, I got free office space for almost a whole 2 years. I was like doing my own startup for my team and myself in something called the Copenhagen School of Entrepreneurship. And again, I got office space, we got meeting rooms, we got coffee facilities. It was just a nice office in the center of Frederiksberg. Again, can't stress enough how much this helped when we were building our startup. Just one example of the many things that are available here in Denmark if you, again, put yourself out there and are willing to hustle. 9. Get free books. So in Denmark, I have already mentioned in some of my videos before, you have something called Revolut, which is an app you can get in your phone or your iPad. Basically, you can loan books as an ebook and as an audiobook as well, in Danish, but also in English. And the catalog is huge and is very, very convenient. So in case you want to lower your expenses on books, for example, this is a place to go. Of course, there's also the opportunity that if you go to the library in Denmark, you can loan the same books in physical copies if that's what you like. But for example, I prefer to read on my iPad, and you just find it incredibly convenient that I have a humongous catalog I can get through and practice my Danish, reading Danish books and so on without having to directly pay for them. Alright, if you want to put these life hacks in action and see more about what Denmark has to offer, make sure you click through this video over here where I explain what are the 7 best things about living in Denmark, and again, there might not be things that you are normally expecting. With that, thank you for making it all the way to the end of the video, and we see you next week.